After the heaviness experienced in Emphorius, it is nice to have a more light-hearted story this time around. Perhaps a slice of life arc wouldn't be too bad. Unfortunately, humor and comedy are tools to mask the deeper, darker aspects of Plan Arcadia. To begin Plan Arcadia, the Express crashes once more, reminiscent to the beginning of Emphorius, only for it to be a dream from a woman that will totally not be important to the story. Ignore the fact that, after saying some ominous words about the fate of the Astral Express, she directly looks into the camera and addresses an observer watching from countless veils, before showing a comic with the real start of the journey. Before even landing properly, Plan Arcadia already gives an interesting hook to the story, a hook that continues off the ideas set up in Emphorius. A constant theme in Emphorius is the allegory of the cave, which in relation to HSR is used to showcase how even those stuck within the cave are able to not only deduce that they are looking at shadows, but are able to control their own fate, even when they are bound to a set destiny. And while this is seen when the Flame Chasers break out of their endless cycles, when you think about it, fictional characters in general are within their own caves. If the story has shown that characters in a simulation can gain awareness of the greater universe, who's to say this won't eventually extend to other characters finding the fourth wall? This is to say that while I believe there is a good chance that Evanescia could be talking to an entity that is not the player, the writer's intent is to make us question whether or not this new character has that level of awareness, considering that it was a core part of the previous arc, providing a smooth transition between them. While her reading the Express's journey as a comic and faking us out is played as a gag, her addressing us, or some other being, should already send red flags to the audience that this journey is going to be a whole lot deeper than what's on the surface. This idea is accentuated with the presence of Yao Guang in the story. Initially, I thought her conversations about fate with Pearl was incredibly boring and made the very early story very slow to start. This statement still holds true, yet when Sunday presses her about why she made him join the Phantasmoon games, her perspective on the subject matter becomes a whole lot more interesting. After witnessing her comrades sacrifice their lives to achieve victory with the help of an Aeon, Yao Guang came to a realization leading to one of my favorite monologues from the story. Humanity's fate is determined by gods, but she claims that we are not ants, that beings as mighty as the Aeons can be pulled by our will. While this line can be seen as pure reliance on gods, the phrasing of it implies that we are forcing their hand. Humanity takes precedence over the gods, and by extension, their will takes precedence over fate. Yao Guang puts her money where her mouth is by entering Plan Arcadia, knowing full well that a Xianzhou general will fall due to her fortune-telling abilities. Even with her impending doom, she seeks to treat Plan Arcadia as the perfect opportunity to directly engage with the Aeon of Elation, in order to carve out the best path for the universe. While under a different context, this is reminiscent of Phainon attacking Nanook, but rather than sheer anger and physical strength, she seeks to challenge a god via calculations and strategy. By introducing Sunday to the mix, she creates another variable that makes the future uncertain, which is the exact result she is looking for. While the intro suggests that characters may be aware of the fourth wall, this scene is an example of a character willing to put their life on the line to challenge the forces that are similar to it. I'm honestly quite intrigued to see how far Yao Guang's strategies will go. Can she win against the Aeon? Perhaps she has what it takes to ignore the path set even by the story itself. So far, I've talked a lot about the relationship the characters have with the story. Because of this, it wouldn't feel right if we didn't acknowledge the fact that Himeko's death, or at the very least idea of it, is actively being teased by the narrative. Spoilers for HI3, but I doubt anyone cares. Himeko sacrifices her life battling/saving a student corrupted by a malignant force. It is one of the most important missions in the game, as it sparks multiple conflicts spanning wars between factions, and more importantly, psychological impacts on her students who don't even know if she's alive or not, kickstarting multiple character arcs. Now, these games are in different universes, so Himeko's fate in one game shouldn't have any bearing on the direction of another. Yet, there is a small line where Himeko returns to her hometown and wonders if she would be able to leave behind an inheritance. This is where we can jokingly claim that will be the ones to receive it. With her recounting the memories of her youth in the area, alongside the clear trauma she has with her past, the writers are clearly trying to set Himeko on a darker character arc. These factors, the allusions to fate, the fourth wall, references to Honkai Impact 3rd such as Welt's time back in St. Freya, and Sparkle's fight with Vita, leads me to believe the writers know that some players are aware of Himeko's fate in another universe. Expanding on that, I also believe that they are using this expected knowledge to purposely bait the audience with the idea that Himeko may or may not die. Honestly, I don't know whether or not they're gonna go through with it. On one hand, with Yao Guang's speech, there's a chance that Himeko's destiny doesn't have to follow the path set for her, but even then, Yao Guang still expects to die. This is not to mention that while rare, HSR is in fact willing to kill off characters. It's too early to tell, but the possibility of the writers using prior knowledge to mess with us is intriguing. A video on this patch wouldn't be complete without the star of the show, Sparkle. The conflict between Sparkle and Sparxie is interesting because it further expands on the character previously known for comedic relief, while also giving us insight on what it means to follow the path of elation. When it comes to Sparkle in the quest, we see a more mellow, serious side to her. While she retains her snark, the only tricks she plays include basic shapeshifting, identity theft, and even murder. I know that last one sounds crazy, but honestly, it's still a whole lot less than I was expecting. Rather than tricking us, Sparkle instead is desperate to stop Sparxie, which feels off coming from the person that pranked us by calling in a bomb threat, and in the hospital section, we get to see her at her weakest point. In the hospital, Sparkle encounters multiple identities she's discarded, each one holding grievances due to abandonment. In response, Sparkle brushes them off as she believes that she shouldn't be tied down to a singular identity. These masks are merely tools. This is ironic because in a sense, Sparkle herself is in the process of being discarded, as Sparxie is the one taking power from her. This culminates in a scene where Sparkle is tied down to a bed, then drops some surprisingly poetic lines about how, through the mask, she can see that the universe is simply churning with endless jokes and the absurd nature of our existence as human beings. The mask is who we want to be, and now, this imposter is more me than I am. The biggest question brought up in relation to Sparkle and Sparxie is, which one is real? When confronting Sparxie, she claims to be the original, which lines up with the fact that Sparkle no longer has the power of a fool, and her statement on the bed. But is she really though? I mean, at the end of the day, Sparkle still gained the upper hand, and the game never definitively says who is who. Maybe neither of them are the original, and we've yet to see the initial identity, or perhaps both of them are real to a certain extent. The answer at the end of the day is pointless because they fuse together at the end, meaning we'll never get a proper answer. Even if we did, now they are effectively the same person, which perfectly reflects the idea that the only proper response to the absurdity of the universe is laughter, at the very least from the perspective of fools. Sparkle is an example of a person who gets too lost in the sauce while presenting themselves, like switching personalities based on the friend group, changing professionalism depending on the event, or harboring beliefs that are not your own to make money. All of these can begin as an act, but at what point does a person begin to adopt the aspects of their presented selves? For a person with thousands of identities, at some point it becomes impossible to tell who is the original person, because even if there is an answer, the amount of influence from all the other acts taint the original in some way. When putting on the act for too long, a person will begin to lose themselves. That is why I believe, despite the bed scene, Sparxie still may not be the original. My interpretation is that at any point in time, any of the identities can become the real Sparkle, which again is why it's pointless to tell which one is real, because there's a chance that the original may have been cast off, like how Sparkle cast off many masks before almost being cast off herself. This impacts the perspective of the path of elation by revealing how the truth is not only hidden, but lost under the veil of spectacle and humor. With enough distortion, the truth becomes insignificant. Therefore, the only response appropriate to facing the universe is laughter, which heavily contrasts with the other characters trying their hardest to push back against the universe. but considering that these characters will never reach beyond the veil, perhaps this perspective is the most reasonable. Unrelated, Sparxie's theme is so fucking good. I love that boss fight. The first patch does a lot of setup, so in a way, it's too early to do too deep of an analysis on any of the characters because other than maybe Sparkle, no one has a complete arc yet. This setup makes the story a bit slow. With the comedy sections and slice of life feel, on paper it sounds like there should be nothing to chew on other than maybe theories for how the story is going to go. But to me, an aspect of Honkai Star Rail I really enjoy is the fact that it always finds some way to ask an intriguing question. And while the execution can vary, sometimes just even putting the idea out there is enough to make me think about the story for days on end. It happens that this time around, it got me thinking about how different characters in the universe either have a perspective or relate to the seemingly set nature of the cosmos. While it is never a good idea to count your eggs before they hatch, the fact that the story can fit in setup, comedy, and drama while also providing enough substance to deconstruct has me excited for the direction of Plain Arcadia. Honestly, if it can just tighten up its pacing, continue to drop interesting characters to get us to connect with the story, all the while giving thought-provoking plot points, Plain Arcadia might be one of the best arcs in HSR. They have the puzzle pieces necessary, so let's see if they are destined to use them to their fullest. Also, tell me why after stealing $26.5 from a Furbo, this broke ass hired a monkey an hourly wage named Narrator to narrate for him. What the hell is going on in this planet?